Hello. Hey, beautiful souls. Welcome back to Follow Your Heart podcast. We have another beautiful starseed light worker with us today, and her name is Mikayla. Let's see if I can do this. Mlynarczyk. Did I say that?
Perfect. Yes, you got it perfect.
Mikayla is the founder of Lead Your Life Co. And we're going to talk about, I'm sure, as we're both intuitive and very go with the flow, many things, but our intention is to talk about alignment, coming back to your truth, and being more magnetic in your expression.
Yeah.
And this is something that Mikayla is really passionate about. So I am actually going to have Mikayla share a little bit more about herself, and then after that, we'll do a quick grounding meditation to start the interview.
Sure. So where do I start? Where do you want me to start with sharing?
I know it's hard to put labels, and I would just put a post about this, but what would you say you would like to express yourself as?
Well, lately I've been really on the journey of unconditioning. So a lot of women that I've noticed that come talk to me, gravitate towards as they see my authenticity. And what I've noticed in the coaching industry right now is that there's so many rules, there's so many what to do, 10 steps for this, whatever. And that's just creating so much noise. And what I notice is, yeah, sure, there's some awesome processes that someone could follow, but they might not align and they might not work out for you. In my own experience, I've hired quite a few coaches. I've been through a lot of different ups and downs, ebbs and flows, which is beautiful. But what I've noticed is the best work, the work that feels so authentic, so expressed, is when you tune into yourself and you just have someone to hold space for you. And that's what I do for my clients. But women just want to be able to express themselves. They don't want to be told necessarily what to do. And I think everybody's dream, which I've noticed, is just to like be your goofy, magnetic, then like your gypsy self, like every single part of yourself. And trust that that's going to bring the clients and things to you. Relationships, like not only just talking if you're a coach or an entrepreneur, like this is like for anyone. So that's what I'm really passionate about. And yeah, and freedom. But I feel like, Becca, do you have something else to add in there?
I think that's beautiful, and it's so in alignment with what I've been talking to many light workers and women about, especially in their business as a spiritual coach and just as a coach. Is a freedom of expression and being, and not feeling like we have to do it a certain way to express ourselves, even in a certain way without the business. So I so love that. That's your calling right now.
Yeah.
And path, and really feel like that lights you up the most. So I'm going to leave it at that because that's perfect, and that's your own expression. And yeah, I really appreciate that about you, Mikayla. It's almost like what I admire through our friendship, the last, I don't even know how long we've known each other now, but like
December?
Maybe, yeah. Wow. So almost half of a year of touching base. And like we've both transformed so much individually in our own path of finding what is our expression, who are we, where do we fit in as a coach, and what's our spiritual journey, and going through the healing. So and pivoting in different directions with our businesses. So I appreciate that you allow others to do that.
Yeah.
To try, experiment, to not be like, I know what I'm doing. This is exactly what it is, and this is how you do it.
I know.
Yeah. So we'll dive in more into like the alignment and self-expression, what you mean by all of that. Before we do that, I am going to guide us through just a grounding, a little protection meditation. And for all of you guys watching or listening, I invite you to participate in this. If you are driving, of course, be responsible if you need to pull over, or even just listen and take a couple deep breaths. And if you aren't driving and you have a chance to stop, maybe stand or sit for this, and just tune in for this little transmission of love and energy that we're about to hold space for. So with that, I invite you to get comfortable, either sit down or stand up with your palms out. And you can be in like a yogi pose, or sitting on your knees, or standing tall. You can hear the birds in the background right now, which is
there's a monkey.
Soon I'm sure there'll be a monkey just to have a little bit of the Mother Nature participating in this. And you can close your eyes and just start feeling into your body. Maybe even is like physically touching your heart, feeling your heartbeat. Maybe have a hand on your belly. Take a little bit deeper of a breath in through your nose, filling up your belly like a balloon. Feeling that energy rise up to your chest and your heart, and then exhaling out through your mouth. Beautiful. Let's do one more deep breath in through your mouth, through your nose, filling up your belly. Hold at the top for a second, tuning into your body, and then release through your mouth. Any stress or worries of the day or the week or the seconds ahead, releasing any shoulds, coulds, any responsibilities or to-do lists. All there is this now, this present moment filled with infinite possibilities. This moment together that we all share collectively, even if this is you tuning in to this podcast, it's creating space for you to heal, to expand, to decondition, to create, to become more of yourself that you already are, deep within yourself. We're all here together for divine purpose, divine reason, and trust that you've been called to this podcast, into these messages that are being transmitted through Mikayla and I into you. And I invite in our guides and angels, our higher selves, our future selves, anyone that you call to, maybe a specific angel, I invite you to call them in to guide you through this transmission, this podcast. I call in Mikayla's guides and angels, future self, higher self. I call in my guides and angels, future self, higher self, Archangel Michael to protect us in our energy. I invite our egos to take a back seat and for our higher selves and future selves to speak through us on this podcast so we can transmit exactly what needs to be communicated through this podcast and to all of you listening for divine guidance and purpose on this planet and for your life mission to be able to fulfill your mission and your heart's desires and to fully express yourselves authentically, vulnerably, and heart-centered. And I invite you to take one more deep breath in and exhale. And Mikayla, I invite you, if you feel so called, to share anything you'd like to solidify this grounding meditation manifestation.
To solidify?
If there's anything you'd like to add to this.
No, we called in our higher selves already and our team. And like you said, put our ego away. And I think that's the most important part. I guess you could say maybe to close it off, if you don't mind me, do you want me to close it off?
Yes, please.
Okay. So I like to close anything off by protection. So we can protect ourselves by using a 12D shield that is actually going to be around us, not just during the podcast, but for 24 hours to allow only the greatest and highest good and the greatest and highest vibration in this space. And anything that's not in our greatest and highest alignment must be transmuted into bright golden light, which will be off. Just a picture of that big golden light and just take a deep breath in. Hold it and exhale out. Beautiful. I feel really grounded and aligned right now. I don't know about you, Becca.
Me too, especially when you did the golden light. That just solidified, totally like, that was the part that was necessary. Thank you.
Seal it all in.
Yes. And for those of you listening, you can open your eyes and tune back in. Thank you for participating in that and adding in the golden light that protects us for 24 hours. It's so fun coming on these podcasts, and just for you listeners to know, like, this is like the beauty of working with me and collaborating with me is I never know where it's going to be led or what there's nothing planned really. So when people are interviewed, sometimes I put them on the spot and it can be really nerve-wracking. And I so appreciate all the guests just dive right in where I'm like, we didn't plan this, but hey, Mikayla, you want to start adding into this meditation, even though we have no idea what's going to happen or what's going to be said. And you so gracefully did that. So thank you for following your intuition, sharing.
You're welcome. I think that's part of the expression too, right? Like when we're talking about authenticity and expression, and then you have people that are trying to plan everything and write everything out. Like, no, it's allow and trust what comes through, because that's the authenticity.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. I want to touch on that, but I also love hearing stories. So to begin, what was your journey like to coming into where you are today with following your intuition and being a spiritual coach and mentor?
I love that. So quite a few journeys, but the pivot and the focal point, the start of my real journey was, I'd say about 4 years ago, but it really started 3 years ago. So 4 years ago, I took a job that was in my field, marketing, and it really wasn't that aligned. I knew it wasn't alignment, but I took it for lots of logical reasons. I had my own office at 21. I had the vacation, I had the money, I had everything, and it was in alignment with, I can travel on vacation time, I have the weekends, and also I came back home from like living in a big city, living on my own, and then now living at my parents' house in a small town. Everything kind of felt like I was falling apart. Although it looked like my life was together, it really did not feel aligned. And that led me to a period of depression, that led me to a period of, I need help because I feel off and I don't know why. And I remember seeing, I was in this slump. I literally was depressed. I even saw like a counselor. That didn't really help that much. And it wasn't until like this pivotal moment where I was in this cafe with my friend telling him my story, like I'm telling you. And this girl walks in. So actually before that, I saw like there was a book behind me and it said the trust leadership. And I'm like, that's interesting. What is that? And then he was like, oh, I'm actually going to be doing a death cafe in about an hour with this girl that wrote that book. And I'm like, what the hell is a death cafe? Like at the time I wasn't that awake. I didn't even know it was an empath. Okay. So this is like, but I was curious. I was like, okay, cool, weird, but cool. So then I was going to leave. And as I was leaving the door, I swear to God, there was like this pull to stay. And I'm like, okay. So I stayed. And then as we were doing this death cafe, which I found out was all about dying of your ego or dying of things that no longer serve you, which is super powerful. Yes, this girl was staring at me and I was staring at her. And I was like, I know you. She's like, I know you. We didn't know each other, but it's like that soul remembrance, right? And anyways, turns out she was a transformational coach, which is what I'm basically doing now. And she was like, you have something. So we had this conversation. She led me to know what my Myers-Briggs was. And ever since then, a couple years later, she ended up being my coach, which took me through this process of remembering. We did quantum healing. We did all the things. And then shortly, I'm just really skipping forward. So this is a long story, but basically skipping forward a couple years later, and just back in November, after working with her, the same coach, I ended up losing my job, like the one that I was in for 3 years, and my boyfriend and I broke up. But I knew in that moment that it was because I was meant to transition into entrepreneurship, and I was meant to transition to what I'm doing now. And it was all, there's a whole process, which is why I'm doing what I'm doing. It's all about alignment, being real with yourself, allowing things that do not serve you to die, and being so incredibly curious, like I did with the Death Cafe. But in an aligned way, so you don't, in a non-fearful way. So like not letting fear take the driver's seat, but actually like acknowledging fear and be like, okay, I see you. And then just like letting your curiosity drive and know and trust that's going to bring you exactly where you need to be, with the exception, because we just talked about this, Bekah, the ebbs and flows that go on in the journey. Because let me tell you, even though I know I'm on the right journey and right path with like my whole heart, I have been through some shit, which we'll probably talk about.
Yep, me too. that's the beauty of life, right? It's not like we reach enlightenment and then we're there and we're happy and blissful and everything's awesome.
Exactly.
But we start to appreciate the lessons and admire them and see joy in them. Like, yeah. And it's like, okay, I'm getting a little bit off path, and it's like the reminder to be back on path. And what I love about your story you shared is that moment where literally you felt your body like saying like, no, you need to stay here at this place because there's something for you, and you listen in that moment, and you probably broke a pattern, right? Because did you remember other moments before that where your body or intuition was saying, no, do this, and you didn't listen?
Many times, and even after that, and even now, to be honest. And it's
Yeah.
still a learning. It's even though I help you with their own intuition, it's still a learning. And I think in those moments and those lessons, if it's something feels, whoever's listening, like you knew better and you're like, shit, just like allow yourself to realize that that pain is meant for you to transmute that pain into power. But you have the choice every time, and you'll keep going through painful loops that have a similar meaning to them. There might be different situations that meaning to them, and then tune the F in. That's where you can gain your power back, and you can transmute it and change. And yeah, you'll learn it every single, as much as you need to, until you freaking shift. And I've been there. Jesus Christ.
Ditto. Yes.
Yeah.
So tuning in. Well, first of all, before we talk about tuning in, if we get to that, what was your journey? Like, what were the things that helped you the most in getting in alignment with yourself? You said quantum healing with this coach you worked with for some time. What other things really shifted you in your life?
Oh. Observing. I would say, because I also, this may or may not be for everyone, but because, and anyone listening that's in human design, I'm a projector. And one of our strengths, which I'm just learning actually, is observation. As much as I'm a doer, observation. So observing the patterns of my own life, but also observing others that were in the same situation I was in, aka my old job, and seeing that they're in it for like 20 years complaining, and seeing, or my family, you know, and what they're doing, or relationships that I've been in, and just observing the patterns and seeing, okay, if I don't like, that's what's happening right now. If I continue to go down this path, do I like this? Yes or no? You check in with your body, and honesty. And I think I even forget what you just asked me, but basically like just to observe and to feel in, like it's a combination of like listening to your intuition, observing what's going around you, you know, asking yourself, do you want to continue going on this path, and realizing that you actually are the co-creator of your experience, which I still to this day have to remind myself, or I'll go through remembering by even hearing you, for example, or someone online just to say that, because we might all know this, but it does take a moment just to tune in again and remember it. But it's a combination of things, really.
Yes. Okay. So it sounds like for the path that you took to getting in alignment was observing a lot of what's going on around you. And I love that you shared this, because it's something I've talked to my boyfriend a lot about, and just other people too, is who are we taking advice from? So it's a perfect example that when you observe your coworkers have been in this job for 20 years and they're not happy, or listening to your parents who've been doing the same thing, and yet we're taking advice from them versus tuning into ourselves, we are going to repeat the pattern of what we're going to have the same outcome of what they're sharing. So it's like, why would we listen to what others are telling us to do when we already see the future of ourselves? If you choose that take this to heart, versus when we can just tune in ourselves and find what's true to us.
Yes, and that also goes with design. So not everyone, especially those that, and it's not to say I'm conscious or not conscious, like that bullshit needs to fly. But because it separates us, and all we are is we want to be in unity, but it's the understanding and the awareness of we all have our own energy types, which we've learned. Becca, you're so well versed in this, like human design, but also like that if only we really know. And even like great mentors they help guide us. The best ones are the ones that just guide us in the knowledge we already know and not give us new information, because that new information may or may not work for us. And it's because we have a specific journey and purpose and path. And actually the best teachers I've ever been, including what I do for myself. I know, Bekah, you do the same thing. I've been basically coached from you before to some capacity. We both just say like, hey, how do you feel? Check in, like, what do you feel is going on? And do the co-creation with the guides and things like that, and to bring into the highest light and highest alignment, like we just did starting the podcast. But in the end, only you know, and that goes back to authenticity and realness. You need to tune in to that.
So let's talk about that, tuning in. This is something that I forget, because we've been on this path for quite some time, 3 or 4 years, both of us.
Yeah.
But people commonly ask me, how do you connect with your guides? What was your experience? How did you discover that there's other beings supporting you and your higher self? Like, some people listening may be like, that's really new to me or foreign. How do I do that?
So mine started two practices, which I do use in my coaching, in my everyday, is Reiki and meditation. But I think it started with meditation. So meditation, when it was Reiki. I was really curious about one of my friends who had this really cool experience with his twin flame, actually his time, and he was telling me about it, and I'm very open, but he was showing me this Reiki practitioner that was telling him all his advice, and I was like, that sounds super cool. I want in with this. I want to know I just want to experience this. So when I experienced it, I literally felt my energy moving, and then I remember going into it so frustrated, so like in a weird daze, and then coming out of the other end in myself that I haven't felt literally in years. And I was like, holy shit, like, what was that? So then I got into meditation and all the things. I saw spirit animals and all the things, and I knew the power of energy and the power of that energy has always been within us. It's just like been shoved around, moved around, from us being frustrated, from being in lower vibrations, from allowing things to be, if you're an empath like me and Bekah, or if you have very, very open, you're very easy, if you're not realizing, to take things in, right?
Yeah.
So it just started with those practices.
Yeah, it's cool. So you discovered Reiki and energy before you started meditating. Is that what I'm understanding?
I think so. I forget, like literally, it was like in the same month. I think I
Wow.
found out about meditation, but I think I was reluctant to really do it until I got into Reiki, and then both came hand in hand. Like, both are hand in hand. Then when you tap into your intuition, you know which ones you need. You end up doing both. Like when I do in the morning, sometimes I do like a chakra balancing, so you are in meditative state, obviously, but then like you just flow with where your energy needs, and you end up doing all the chakras most of the time. But yeah, like it started, I think it started there so long ago now, but it started with that. Yeah, I'd say those two are the main practices I've used.
And how do you communicate with your guides?
Like we just did, literally, on the beginning of the podcast. Yeah, but so meditation is one way of doing it, but then I also use cards. So I started getting card readings, I'd say like, I have my cards with me right now, about a year and a half ago now, and I started communicating with them, I'd say like in meditation, and then I wanted to tap more into my intuition, into my gut feeling, and that's where the cards came in. But that's another way of tapping with your guides, and then just calling them in like you just did too. So it's a combination, and I think like when you tap into your intuition, you know which one you need, if that makes sense.
So of course, since you said you have your cards, my last interview too, I put her on the spot and I asked her to do a little card drawing. Would you be willing to do that?
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay, so you can, whatever feels aligned to you, to do a collective one for this podcast, whoever's listening, or just for me, whatever you feel called to do.
I'll do a collective one. Perfect. And do you want me to do it right now?
Yes, please.
Okay, so just so everybody knows on the podcast, I have, not that you can see this, Bekah, but the podcast is, yeah, it doesn't have video. So it's Rebecca Campbell Work Your Light Oracle Cards Guidebook, or the deck. I
That
love
one's
her
so
work.
pretty.
It is. It has so very like lots of pastels for those that are listening. It's really pretty. And the messages and the way she writes, she's also an author. It's so beautiful. So I'm going to do one card pull for the collective. Just turning in. Ooh. So I got Align Your Life in reverse.
Really?
Which is insane because this was the entire podcast.
About alignment.
About alignment. Yeah. And it says, what is not aligned or needs to change? And it was in reverse, which means it is so prominent right now. So what I'd say is for the collective, and also, sorry, I just want to go off a little tangent here.
No, keep going, please.
Channeling. The coronavirus is all about, to me anyway, like obviously it's unfortunate, and I actually had a friend that had corona, so it's definitely to take serious, but at the same time, for those that are in health and those that are, safe, this is a time for alignment. This is a time for total alignment, and to reflect on if you are in a job, like we just talked about, that does not feel, I know Becca, you had a similar experience with that, that does not feel aligned, and a path that doesn't, just be honest with yourself. And do the if writing, you can speak in front of a mirror is really great, but if you like to also journal, that's a great way of doing it too. Write out, what am I feeling right now, and how do I want to feel? What does this experience of my job, how does it make me feel? How do I want to feel? And just like go through those processes to figure out what is in alignment and what isn't. And then be courageous enough to be like, okay, so then if this is not alignment, and knowing that when you let things go, which Becca and I just talked about actually prior to this podcast, you create more space. And when you create more space, you're allowed and to cultivate things through. So when you align your life and you cultivate and be specific with what you want, just trust that that's going to come through tenfold. And I think that's what the universe wants us to all know right now.
Thank you for that channeled message. That was in complete alignment to do the card pulling, get alignment reversed, and that being our main topic of the podcast episode today. Like, that is how spirit works. Like, yes. Example A, just trust that these weird intuitive callings, like for me, even for you guys to understand, like it's impossible to control these situations. Like, I was not planning on Mikayla having her cards in front of her, and of course I see them. I see it as a sign. I need to invite Mikayla, because she is a projector. She needs an invitation to do what she's called to do, really intuitive, empathic, and can channel. She just channeled a message for all of you guys.
Yes.
So that's the beauty of how the universe and spirit works through us, and true us being in alignment too, of just being on our path and trusting. Like, Mikayla could have been like, oh, I'm too nervous to do that on podcast, and I didn't prepare, and I didn't know it was going to happen. No, I don't want to do it. But she's just like, hell yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Life is an adventure. When someone asks, do you feel into it? Feels good. Do it up.
Yeah, do it up. I like that. So beautifully said. And I'd love to keep going on with that conversation. What you said, a couple different tips, which I think I'd love to go into a little bit more into the details. You said to find that alignment, either it was like speaking to yourself in the mirror or writing those things down in a journal to get to that decision where you can make a change. I believe is how you said it, some way or another. So what is the mirror exercise you're talking about?
This is fresh, so I just learned about this. So actually, I am in this group, a little free thing right now, and it's basically embody your Empress. So your Empress is all about like basically being magnetic, which is stuff I'm working on, and just being, magnetic and authentic with yourself, because when you are and you embody that, then you attract all those things to your life. And so in order to be in alignment and to be embodied in who you truly are, it does come with an ego death, which we talked about, with the death of your ego, death of because that creates a transformation. So say you're feeling off in your day, and this also goes if you're feeling good in your day. You go to a mirror and you literally say you're in my mind right now, I'm like, I don't know what I want to do. I don't think I'm good enough, whatever. You say to yourself in the mirror, I'm not good enough. you're ugly, you're this, you're that, and you say all of the really rude things. I know it's opposite of this whole positivity bullshit shift that like a lot of some people go through, but in order to be that positive high vibe, you have to acknowledge what is low. Otherwise you're just spiritual bypassing, and I'm done with that. So allow yourself to just practice like dancing. If you can't see through this, she's like, hell yeah, baby girl, let's go. So you basically go to the mirror and just say everything that's just disgusting. And then what that does is, we talked about before, it releases all of the feelings. You might cry, which is great, another form of release. Never apologize to cry. And then what you do again is, after you've done all that purging, which you'll know when you're done, because you'll feel it in your entire body. And I had this experience yesterday. I had a lot of purging that happened. And then you go in the mirror again, smile, and then say like, you're beautiful, opposite of what you just did. You're this, you're that. And uplift yourself. And then what you're doing is you're basically letting those negative energies flow out, and then letting all the beauty flow in. And then you can even unlock it with what me and Becca did with the bright light, And that's one way of just like enclosing it, like enclosing the wound. You open the wound. Now you gotta close it. You gotta fill it up with something beautiful. Some gauze, some polysporin, and then you close it off with a Band-Aid. And yeah, that's one way of doing it. And I think it's important to have those practices in your life if you really want massive transformation.
That's a great exercise. I've never tried that. And it's another form of purging, which I think is such an important topic, because that's what is going on right now with the current environment, coronavirus, everything. We're going through a fear purge. And I think exactly what you touched on, this was part of my journey, was I focused so much on the positive and not letting the negative come in, because I thought, if I let the negative in, then that's going to be bad. It's going to throw me off. And I realized, I got to understand positively and how amazing that feels. And then now it's really transitioning into going into those places where I can heal them versus try to mask them with a Band-Aid, to truly heal them for good. And when you talked about the positivity, the first example I thought of was even in a relationship, this has happened to me many times. It's been a big testing environment for me, is I wanted to be positive. Even if something bothers me about what my partner said or what they did, I'm going to focus on the positive. And he's amazing. He's perfect. He's like the best man ever. And I used to tell myself that in past relationships and try to focus on the positive versus talk about it. Hey, what you did, the story I made up in my head made me feel this way, blah, blah, blah. And going into that wound and addressing it together. And through that conversation, I have had the most beautiful, stronger connections or partnerships with going to the darker places to purge or clear out that energy. So
exactly.
It's essentially just a form of purging and cleansing and deconditioning or unconditioning, as you said. Right?
Yeah, you'll feel a lot more lighter. We think just going to the light is going to make us lighter. And what that does is it does for a little bit, but then underneath it all, you're like, oh, why do I still feel like this, whatever? And you're like, oh, no, I'm positive. And then you can be smiling, doing all the things, but deep down, you're like, oh, fuck. Have you been there? But then when you actually just acknowledge the oh, fuck, and then you get rid of it, and then you let in the light, holy shit, now you're flying. And so don't be scared of the darkness, but don't stay there.
Yeah, there's a dance. That's a good point. I love that tip. Don't stay there, but don't be afraid of it. Yeah, it's being in 4D, right? Because you have everyone else. Okay, there's 3D, which is 3 density, and then 5D. Our intention as we evolve as spiritual beings and human beings is we want to be in 5D at least, and that thinner veil. But I feel like the inner work happens in the 4D, where it's our ego, when we're addressing our ego, working with it, but it's not somewhere we want to stay in fourth density. Exactly. Is that how you understand it as well?
Yeah, but I think even I've experienced I feel as if potentially 12D at one point. Wow. We've all played the playing. I feel as if we can all play the playing fields. Some people are better at staying high than others. I think with my journey, and this is from my own personal experience, people talk about the D's, the D's as if you're always there, but I feel like you can play in any of the frequencies, but that's a choice as well, because as long as you're aware that, oh, I'm playing in this field, and then you have a choice to acknowledge it, which is the point of acknowledging the dark, and then you're like, okay, what do I want to experience? And you can experience 12 if you want. We just invited the 12 in, you know? And it just, I think the whole base of it all is just awareness and tapping into your feeling, which we just talked about, right? So it's, again, ebb and flow. From my personal experience, I'm also really emotional. And being an empath and sitting in environments that have not been healthy for me, it's hard in those moments to stay always high vibe. It really, really, really is. But knowing that you can fluctuate and knowing that you have a choice, I think, is the most important out of trying to obsess over staying in one spot. Just knowing that you have the choice, I think, is the most important part. It's a human experience. I think it's important to experience it in low densities because that it's part of life. I feel like we're here to know what it feels like. And when you hit those low vibrations, you can become this empathetic leader to help others because you know where they're at. Versus I've seen spiritual people that say they're spiritual, but man, you're judging, and I judge too at the same time, but like you're judging that person for feeling low and, oh, I've overcome that, cool, but that person's hurting, so how can you freaking help them to get into where you are, you know? And so I think if you were just to always feel high vibe, you would never have the empathy or understanding of where that person's at, and therefore not be a good leader. So you have to be down.
Snaps from Mikayla. Yes, that's really what feels true to me. And this experiment I'm experiencing right now in my reality too. I was just on a call with one of my coaches. He's Christopher Power. He's a human design reader and has been for, I think, almost 20 years, numerologist, scientist, astrologist, all these things. And I was laughing because we were talking about like more of my design and what I'm here called to do. And I was laughing about something he said. I forgot what it was, but I was like, do you ever experience as a coach, like let's talk coach to coach, that whenever you coach one of your clients through something, you inevitably go through it again too with them? Like,
are you asking me or like that person?
I asked my coach, but I'm actually curious if this happens to you too.
Yes, maybe I haven't been. Yes, actually, yes. Yep. Whether it happened, you go ahead.
Well, like I've given some of my clients tips like, oh, if you're like really, really focused on, like an example that a lot of my clients struggle with because I struggled with it is finding the balance between work and time to be without feeling like I need to work and just to be present and in my spiritual practice. Yeah. And as soon as I'm like, oh, this is like, you just need to be in alignment, blah, 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 here's how you do it. And then I think I have a hold on it or grasp on it. And then my guides are like, no, there's another level to this. And then I go through it.
Oh yeah. Like I'm being schooled right now through intuition because
Really?
I can feel it massively. Yeah. And so whatever, this also goes with what we just talked about. So say, you do the purging and you call something in. When you call that in, be prepared to be freaking schooled on what you want to call in. You want to teach intuition, you're going to be freaking schooled intuition. You want to teach being confident, you're going to be schooled on confidence. Like, and I'm noticing this because, again, we talked about observation, how important it is in order to get to where you are. And observation, one of my good friends, she's a confidence coach. Me as being a projector, I can feel and experience someone to more than what they can. And that can also cause that I can trigger the shit out of someone. Either you love me or you don't. And she comes to me because I'm real AF, but I'm like, girl, I'm sorry, you want to be a confidence coach, but you got to also show confidence. Same with me. Hey, I want to be an intuitive coach. I've been asking people lately, what about this? What about this? And I've been going through my own, and I'll be totally honest with you. I have great intuition, but I have been going through my own shit about with my own stuff. And so, but this is where it's important. I'm an awareness that I'm going through that, and I'm an awareness that I'm being schooled on it. So this causes me not to be like, why is this happening to me? It's for you. So that's where I think the best leaders are, even if they're not perfect. It's the ones that have that awareness that, they're going through a slump, but they're not looking at the victim stuff. They're looking at, okay, it's happening for me. This is shitty, but I'm going to get through it,
I so appreciate you sharing that. That is such a big piece of wisdom. Thank you for being your projector self.
Oh, you're so welcome.
In that moment and everything you're sharing, I can tell when you channel stuff, it's just like, it just goes right through you. I love this authentic conversation we're having.
Yeah.
I wanted to touch on intuition because I think that's something that we're all looking to strengthen and to bring more and more online, because we all have that capability, right? It's just practicing that muscle is how I see it. How would you say you have brought your intuition online and strengthened it over time?
My intuition online. I think I don't even realize I'm using it online, but I am. So, conversations. So if I have a conversation with someone and then I feel into it and it just feels like it's okay. Like, for example, if I feel some things happening for me, then I have this conversation, that person's like, oh my God, I've had that happen to me too, whatever. Then I'm like, okay, it's for me, for that person, and it seems to be a theme, it's for the collective. So then I go on and I send it. Or sometimes I'm just like tapping into my urges. I think this is where it is tapping into those urges and asking yourself, is it just for you or is it for everybody else? And even if it is just for you, another thing that so just to back it up real quick, my background's a marketer. So we're taught marketing, there's manipulation in marketing when I was working in that field. However, what I'm so passionate about, again, is authenticity. So it's when you're your full self, full freaking self, trust that when you express whatever is intuitively guided for you and that's in your heart, because your heart's your highest vibration, so love's one of the highest vibrations, you're going to bring and attract, become a magnetic field for that person. So I'm just channeling here and I literally forgot what you just asked me about. Basically, like when you so it's intuition, when you tap into your intuition and you tap into your authentic self, and it's with love. So ask if it's with love or not. And it's with love, trust that is going to, and you decide to share it, it's going to only attract what is love, right? Because anything that's lower density won't really they might be curious or like, ooh, I want that love, because like it's energy suckers, but they're not going to really be able to get at you because now you vibrated high enough that it's like you basically being on a castle and they're down by the moat. It's impossible.
Well said. And yes, I like the analogy of being the castle and down by the moat, and yeah, being at that higher frequency and checking in. I think that's really important what you said of when you do ask your intuition, is this like of love? Then that's really all you have to ask. It can be that simple. And anything that, even when we speak to guides and other entities and beings, if you want to get into that, I learned quickly that as universal law goes, if we ask that question of anyone that's trying to come through us, a being, an energy, whatever, and if they cannot say yes to being of the highest vibration of love, they can't come through. So it's no different with our intuition. Like, we want to seek the highest future self if we're talking to our higher self or intuition, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
That's powerful. And what about in terms of, so going back to like alignment, since that's a big theme and you pulled the cards, that's confirmation that really we are being called to talk about this alignment. What are other things that helps you, feel more in alignment with who you truly are?
Grounding. So like lots of different things, but I'd say like for tools of knowing how to get into alignment. So they came. Becca, that for those that understand human design, even if you don't, you can listen. I have a really open crown, so your head space really open, and then a really open root. So that can bring that, if I'm not aware of that, like when I wasn't aware of the empath, I was bringing in all these energies and getting a taste for everyone and getting different tastes for different identities. And I intuitively, I didn't feel myself, but I was so swept away by it. But when you're grounded and you have a good grounding practice, then you're able to get into your body. So when you're in your body, that's when you can feel, right? Because we talked about like intuition's a feeling thing. If you're out of your body, you can't really feel that you're not really in alignment. So you're floating, but maybe you kind of know it intuitively that something's off, but you're still out floating. And then the moment you're in your body, it's way more obvious for you to feel what's off. And when you feel what's off, then like, okay, where in my body am I feeling this, what needs to shift, what's going on. And then that is when you write that all out or speak it all out, you can identify the certain spots that need work. And when you work on those, that's when you can get back into alignment in your own energy. And that's when all of a sudden, boom, you're going to have a message, boom, you're going to have a relationship. Like those things will become magnetic and attract to you. But it needs to happen in that order. So you need to get in the body.
And how do people do that if they're not used to being in the body?
Okay. Okay, I love that. So actually, so I've been guided lately. I don't know if you know this, like I love reggaeton music. Like I am so
What is it?
Reggaeton. Like it's like
Oh,
Spanish.
yeah. Reggae?
I'm like, no, it's like it's like Spanish, but I'll send you a song after this. Okay, I'll send you a couple songs. I'll hook you up. But like, okay, so either way, it doesn't matter what music. That's mine. But like, put any music on, okay, and allow yourself to dance without judgment. So you can dance, or you can literally sit in a chair or stand up. We can maybe do it just to end. Do you want to do it together?
Yes, I was thinking that too.
Yes. Sweet. We kind of did at the beginning of this, but it's good to end with one on. Okay, so Becca and I, just to give you some context, obviously, we are sitting in chairs and we have our feet on the ground. So you're going to want to do that. If you are standing, that's cool too, as long as your feet are on the ground. It's cool if you're barefoot in the earth, but we don't have that. So we're just going to pretend. So what we're going to do is put our hands on our thighs. We're going to breathe. Okay, so in and exhale out. We can do that one more time. Hold. Exhale out. Okay, great. So now, I'm already feeling the body, but it doesn't matter, we're gonna do it anyway. We're gonna imagine a bright red light coming from the base of our spine, going through our legs, all the way through our calves, all the way down through our feet, into the ground, and imagine roots, just like trees. Roots that go through all the way down to the ground, all the way down through Mother Gaia. Lava, honestly, is deep, as you can imagine. And you can even say, I am grounded in the here and now. I am safe. I am present. You can say either of those 3 times. 3 times for any mantra is beautiful. So I'm going to say, I am safe. I am grounded. I am safe. I am grounded. And I am safe. And I am grounded in the here and now. You can open up our eyes. And literally that took, 2 minutes? You can do that. I recommend doing that. And I have to remind myself, do it literally every morning or anytime you feel in your head, because when we're in our heads, our thoughts manifest our reality. Same with our feelings. Thoughts create feelings. And I have to remind myself this because as much as emotions are beautiful, they can take us down this manifestation path that might not be so beautiful. So when you're grounded in your body, you have now a choice.
Thank you for sharing that grounding meditation practice. And it could even be like 20 seconds. We could go through that practice. And that's something that I have created as part of my morning ritual, which, there's some days where I do end up missing it. And if I do, I try to do it like literally, you can do it walking if you really wanted to, but nice to be like present and still and have your feet planted on the ground too. But that's such an important practice, is to get grounded every day. And yeah, even if you go back to human design, like I have a defined root. I am like naturally more grounded, but still I do that grounding practice, a similar one every day. And it really does make you feel like in your body, present, protected, and and I think it does tie into the emotions and the feelings too. So you can make more intuitive decisions through feeling supported and grounded and not like fight or flight.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know about you, but I feel so like a freaking tiger right now. I feel so good. Like I'm telling you right now that you want to go to the spa, you can go to the spa and do that and you'll feel freaking amazing.
Love it. This is like the most jam-packed, helpful podcast of like so many different like impromptu meditation, other grounding practices, movement, like I love this. Card pulling. This is amazing.
Yeah, just to give you some context, guys, like we literally, or guys, girls, whatever, no judgment, but like we literally had no idea what was going to come out of this podcast. She messaged me last week, I think, and said, want to do a podcast? Like, sure. And I was like, I don't even know what I'm going to say. I don't even know, what's going on, but just, again, step into the fear, do it anyway. Because guess what? Beautiful shit comes out of just stepping into it. I'm totally unfiltered. I hope you don't mind my random swear words, but yeah.
So be you. I love it. It's true. Yes. That's a prime example of being in alignment and being authentic too. As we wrap up, I'd love to hear how people can work with you. And first of all, how can people work with you, Mikayla?
You can work with me. So I offer right now, I'm definitely creating my own program and I'm going to have my own podcast, but for now you can work with me one-on-one. I do offer one-on-one sessions. And I'm not going to say the price on here right now. It's not appropriate, but one-on-one, I've done 1 hour, packages, two sessions, 3 sessions here or there, but I prefer, obviously the biggest transformation is 3 months working with me. You do a week call with me every week or every second week. You have Voxer access to me, you get homework, and you go through this beautiful transformational process. If you're feeling unaligned, you have someone that holds space. Most of the time, honestly, my clients do most of the talking and I do a lot of listening, but I give them channeled feedback that's in their highest good. So if you are tired of being told what to do, all the shoulds, and you just want someone to listen and actually has been through a lot of different experiences and have the actual tools that will be aligned for you, that will work with you, that you can use. So I'm not just telling you what to do. Now you have the power to learn how to lead your own life, which is why I created Lead Your Life. Then this is for you. Working with me one-on-one is for you.
Beautifully said. And I think you just hit on something so important that a lot of women I've connected with too on Instagram have said that they're wanting to be heard and may not know that, but when they're seeking a coach and a mentor and someone to support them, they just want a safe space to be heard and to have that intuitive feedback too, where it's coming from the highest good. So I like that you say your clients do a lot of the talking and you do the listening. I think that's so valuable in finding a coach. So that's amazing to hear that's how you support your clients too. And where do you hang out the most, or what social platforms are you on?
I've been hanging out a lot on Instagram, and I have 2 platforms. So I have Mikayla Mlynarczyk, which is very hard to spell. You can just type in Mikayla and then with a crazy last name, and you'll find me. Just looking in Bekah's search friends. But you can also find me, it's a smaller account I'm building. It's my community account at leadyourlife.co. So it's a full your, not just a you are. Full your. And I'm hanging out on Instagram. You could also email me. Should I provide my email?
Yes, please.
Okay, so my email is, you want to have a pen and paper? I'm just kidding. But anyways, is mikayla.biz@gmail.com.
Beautiful. And we'll link all that in the show notes, so you can just click on that link, connect with Mikayla, reach out to her, use her beautiful, intuitive, empathic self, projector self for guidance. And I really like that you offer even just one-on-one sessions one time to really just help whatever needs to be channeled, give them guidance, whether it's a card pulling, meditation, using all the tools to support others and getting aligned, getting back to their true selves. Thank you again, Mikayla, for just showing up and just co-creating, having fun, being yourself. I love that you cuss. I love that you're yourself. I like that you're real as fuck. Thank you.
Yeah, you're so welcome. Thank you. That was fun.
It was. And thank you everyone for showing up and listening and feeling called to this episode. Of course, if there's anything that triggered you or you need more support in, reach out to either of us and we are here to support you as well.
Yeah.
Bye, guys.
Bye.